So figurative language means imaginative. It's language that helps us produce images in a reader's mind and expresses ideas in fresh and vivid ways. It conveys ideas in a creative way rather than literally. So then we also have literal language. And literal language means straightforward or factual. So in figurative language, it helps us use our imagination to actually picture what's happening in the text. So that's what similes and imagery and metaphors, that's what they all do. They help us understand the text a little better by helping us imagine what's going on in the text, rather than just a plain, boring, literal sentence, right? So instead of, I touched the desk, I'm saying, I ran my hand over the cold, hard surface of the wooden desk. Now that's using imagery. And by using that imagery, I can now imagine how the desk actually feels. So instead of just picturing a person touching the desk, now I'm actually picturing what it would be like if I touched the desk, if I touched the cold, hard wooden desk. So that's why figurative language is so important, and that's why I will be requiring, in your memoir assignment, I will be requiring for you to include figurative language in your memoir. So we're just going to go over types of figurative language. We've already gone over these in the past. And so what we're going to do is we're basically going to review it. So the first one that we have is a simile. And a simile is comparing two things using like or as. And you guys already know this one. It's the easiest one. And on the side, on the right panel, there's an example. This example is from the excerpt that you guys read from Michelle Obama's Becoming. They use the word everyone was most afraid of, ghetto, dropping it like a lit match, right? So I put in bold the part that's using the simile, right? Dropping it like a lit match. So they would drop the word ghetto like a lit match, like something that set the world on fire. And that helps us understand how everyone viewed this, word, right? So when you have a lit match, you're not waiting. So if you have a match, you're not waiting for the flame to run to your fingers, right? You're going to drop it right away. And so the word ghetto, that's how they would use it, right? They would say it like, oh, I can't really say that word too much because, you know, it's ghetto. And so that's how people viewed where she was growing up and the school that she went to. And they would say it like it's this big, giant concept. And so it helps us understand how they would actually view the school and how the school was portrayed by the media and by the people around her, the people in her neighborhood. The second example, we have metaphor. So metaphor is comparing two things not using like or as, right? And we have a metaphor like time is money, or she is the wind beneath my wings. Time is money is a very simple metaphor, and it's just saying that every minute that you waste is money that you're wasting, especially when you're working. And a lot of you guys know this, a lot of you guys that have jobs, right? The more hours you put into your job, the more money you're going to make. So time at school also will help you get more money in the future. So it's not just money that you're making right now, it's the time that you're investing in yourself and your future. That's going to be money in the future that you're going to make for yourself. And then she is the wind beneath my wings. So this is from a very famous movie, and a very famous song too. She is the wind beneath my wings just means that she is the person who helps me fly, right? Who helps me soar, who guides me through life, and who inspires me. Hyperbole, right, is a purposeful exaggeration for emphasis or humor. So in hyperbole, you're exaggerating something, right? So we have, it was 1,000 degrees outside. We've been in quarantine for an eternity, right? We've only been in quarantine about 20 days now. So it hasn't been an eternity, but it does feel that way. So in using hyperbole, you're exaggerating something, right? And in Michelle Obama's Becoming, we have, again, an example from your excerpt. So in the first part, she says, I tore through the lessons, quietly keeping tabs on where I stood among my peers as we charted our progress from long division to pre-algebra, from writing single paragraphs to turning in full research papers. So I tore through the lessons. She didn't actually tear through the lessons. She just like did them quickly. It's an exaggeration. It's an exaggeration. So another form of hyperbole is saying, it's 1,000 degrees outside. I literally died. You did not literally die. You are still alive, but it's hyperbole. And then we have imagery, which if you see this example, it's the one that I gave you guys 2 seconds ago. But imagery is words or phrases that appeal to the 5 senses, and our 5 senses are taste, touch, smell, sight, and hearing. And so the example says, she ran her fingers along the cold, smooth surface of the wooden desk. Instead of saying she touched the desk, we're saying she ran her fingers along the cold, smooth surface of the desk. And so now we know it's cold, we know it's smooth, and we know it's wooden, right? Because there are other types of dust that you could run your fingers through. And this appeals to your sense of touch. So imagery always appeals to one of the 5 senses. So when you're writing about imagery, especially in the activity that you guys are going to see in a little bit, you need to tell me what it appeals to. Does it appeal to taste? Does it appeal to touch, to smell, to sight, or to hearing? You have to tell me which one it appeals to. All right, then we also have personification. So personification is giving human-like qualities to non-human things. So this is from a memoir by Melissa Feebles called Abandon Me, and the example says, the ocean disappears things. It is a hungry, grabbing thing, right? The ocean is not a person. It is not hungry. It doesn't grab anything, but that's how she's describing it. She's personifying the ocean. She's giving it human-like qualities. And then we have symbolism. So symbolism is a person, place, or thing that represents an abstract idea that is beyond itself. So it's not just, in the example, for instance, one ring to rule them all. That's the Lord of the Rings, and this is an example that we've gone over already in the past. So one ring to rule them all represents ultimate power, right? So this isn't just, it's not just a ring. The ring represents something, right? And like with superheroes, for instance, and I gave this example already in the past, but with superheroes, their capes, their emblems, you know, the Flash has like the lightning bolt, Iron Man has that like heart thing, Captain America has his shield, Spider-Man has his webs, I guess. Ignore the Spider-Man one, but all of these superheroes, the Flash with his lightning bolt, Iron Man with his little like heart of iron, and Captain America with his shield, they represent their heroism. They represent the fact that they are heroes, that they are doing the right thing. They represent ultimate goodness. Whereas supervillains, like Thanos and the Gauntlet, represent ultimate badness, so evil. This is we see this a lot in stories like Harry Potter, for instance, where it's a story all about good versus evil. Harry represents Harry, and his lightning bolt on his forehead, for those of you who have read it, represents ultimate goodness. It represents family, it represents love. Whereas Voldemort and the snake and all of that, it represents evil and cruelty and bad. And we see it a lot even in the Bible, right? So we have the story of Adam and Eve, which I'm sure all of you guys have heard this. Eve ate the apple from the snake, right? So the apple represents temptation. The snake now represents something evil, and we've seen it throughout a lot of different stories in literature that snake represents something evil, or snakes are evil. They symbolize this. They have this symbol now attached to them because of that Adam and Eve story. So there's a lot of symbolism taking place in a lot of literature, and usually it's giving one thing a symbol that represents something deeper than what it actually is. The next one, we have repetition. So repetition, you guys already know this, is repeating a word or phrase over and over in a text to emphasize an idea. Now, this is something that I've been telling you since the beginning of the year. Every time you see the word repetition, we're going to say the word emphasize. So the repetition emphasizes something, right? So in our example, it says, I ate and ate and ate, and I became more and more lost. So she's repeating there the word ate. And this is also from a memoir by Roxane Gay. It's called Hunger. And she's repeating the word ate to emphasize how her hunger for food and how much she ate, how it ended up making her more and more lost in life. And the book essentially is about gaining weight and obesity, but her saying I ate and ate and ate, it's emphasizing how much she was actually eating, how she was basically swallowing her feelings through her food. And then we have anaphora. An anaphora is the repetition of a word or a phrase throughout a paragraph at the beginning of a sentence. So you're going to see a full paragraph in a text, and if you see anaphora, it's because the word is being repeated at the beginning of the sentence. So in Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream, which we read earlier this year, he says, go back to Mississippi, go back to Alabama, go back to South Carolina, go back to Georgia, go back to Louisiana, go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. So he's using anaphora by repeating go back over and over and over in that text.